Happy Tuesday, folks. Back for another episode of the Overflow Podcast, where we're all about living in the overflow of God's presence in our everyday lives. Super excited for us to be here, joined by Brother Wayne. We're going to dig into Sunday's sermon, which was really a powerful word from Matthew 16, reminding us that Jesus didn't come to launch religion. He came to bring a kingdom. With that kingdom comes authority, revelation, and got my props, keys to unlock what God has already prepared for us. The big question we're going to dive into, though, today is whose voice are you actually listening to? Are you leaning into the Spirit's revelation, or are you letting culture, fear, and our own flesh have the final say? So, Brother Wayne, I know we're going to kick into a number of things here today on the episode, but I wanted to let you do a little plug here. We've got something coming up with Bible study on Wednesdays that we're super excited about. So,
yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, so we're going to start tomorrow night. So the 26th, we're going to start a new series on in Bible study. I'm going to be teaching on how to activate miracles, and so we're going to be doing Old Testament, New Testament. Miracles from biblical times and miracles that are happening right now, even in our church.
Yes.
And so I just got a praise report Sunday from somebody in children's church. You know, there's just so much happening. But really, I'm going to say this for those maybe Wednesday nights are tough to get there. Maybe you don't really get on Wednesday nights. I really think for the next 6 weeks, just carve it out, get there if you can. We're going to dive in and we're going to have fun with it. We're going to learn how to not only learn about miracles, but how do you activate miracles?
Yes.
What does the Bible say of how to activate it?
Yeah.
And so we're going to have fun. So just a plug there for our regular Wednesday crew. Look forward to seeing you. For those who are not regular Wednesday crew yet, look forward to seeing you. So show up and let's have fun. So 7 o'clock tomorrow night.
It's going to be a lot of fun. I appreciate you plugging that because, and I want to say, you know, I was always growing up a little skeptical on going to Bible study because I felt like I wasn't mature enough in my journey to be able to participate. So I felt it was almost like a fear element. And again, we talk about assignment against the assignment, right? It was like, no, you don't want to go do that because you're fearful. So I want to open up and say that for me, it has been so great because it's a discussion element. There's an opportunity to hear from people. I love hearing from Pastor Jerry. I love hearing from you, but I think it's great that we have that time and that safe space to come and talk and just really explore the word and dig in. It's super informal, so you don't have to worry about coming in a suit and tie. You know how we roll at Seaside. But no, I mean, I just wanted to say that because it's been very, very impactful for me. And I know I was, up front a little bit of a skeptic, and I am absolutely has changed the way that I Bible study.
Awesome.
So join us on Wednesdays, but let's dig into this. Lots to chew on today. We spent a good amount of time and we're kind of, transitioning the series about kingdom authority into Matthew. We spent some time in Matthew 16, 15 through 9. And then we did get all the way down. I think it was, let me look at my Bible here, all the way down through 16:23. So I'm just going to read the front of this just to kind of give us some additional context. So we're going to go Matthew 16:13. 16:13. When Jesus came to the region of Caesar Philippi, he asked his disciples, saying, "Who do men say that I, the Son of Man, am?" So they said, "Some say John the Baptist, some say Elijah, and others Jeremiah or one of the prophets." He said to them, "But who do you say that I am?" Simon Peter answered and said, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." Jesus answered and said to him, "Blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father who is in heaven. And I also say to you that you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades shall not prevail against it. And I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven, and whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven. Whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven." Then he commanded his disciples that they should tell no one that he was Jesus the Christ. I'm going to stop there at 20 because there's the bottom half that I want to get into a little later. But just to kind of recap what we're going off of here, we're talking a lot about revelation, right, in church. And this small story is exactly what revelation is. It's who are you listening to? What are you getting it from? Where are you getting it from? And this little element here where he asks his disciples, who am I? What are people saying about me? And then he says, well, who am I to you? That's the difference of where we are today. When I think we talk a lot about, your relationship with God. Well, what does people say? What do people say about God? Okay, where are you at? What does God mean to you? And where are you getting that information? I think that's one of the biggest things that, we talk about church, we talk about, religion, we've talked about this space that we're in, and ultimately it should be kingdom authority, but we don't have that because we're not listening to the right voice. So that's just, I know we've talked about it so much, but that's such a small little element that makes such a big difference for us.
Yeah. Well, when you really look at that, Jesus building the church, I love this, is built on revelation, not personality. It's not built on just information alone, and that's what Jerry talks about so many times. When you read the word, we open up the word. I'm in Ephesians, and I study Ephesians. That's word, but revelation comes from that. The Spirit of God brings. That's why you can read one verse and it doesn't really land, and 3 years later, it's like all you can think about. Me and Candace have joked about it in the last few days, and it's like this one verse that just keeps coming up everywhere, and we're seeing it play out. And so a lot of times she'll have a verse, I'll have a verse, but this has been both of us lately. Yes. Like God's letting us know. So yeah, and that's so powerful. The rock of revelation. This is it. This is the key. And sadly, if I had to say, Eli, most Christians, they go to church, they read the word, maybe they listen to the pastor, they listen to a podcast, whatever, but are they saying, Holy Spirit, show me? What do you have for me?
Yeah.
That's the important part.
Yes, and it really is, because it goes down to, we've talked about it so much, I sound like I'm beating a dead horse, but it's the distraction element. In today's world, there is so much going on. So you have to be able to discern God's voice, and to your point, go to God, asking and being proactive in your conversation. It doesn't, prayer is just a conversation. It doesn't always have to be asking for something, right? That we can have a conversation with God, just talk to him and spend time with him. And then you can start to understand or see where things are popping up, to your point, where you're seeing that verse, and you and Candace are seeing that verse pop up all the time. I had something pop up in business that I've been thinking about, and it kind of randomly popped into my head, and I just was like, nah, it's a random thought, and I put it off to the side. 2 days later, something else happened, and I was like, 3 days later, he's engaging with my things on LinkedIn, and all of a sudden it's like, maybe that little voice that I heard on that walk was something from God. And again, that's applying it to business here, but that piece of understanding and hearing and being able to discern what is God's voice is the key to all of this. When we talk about the keys, that is the key to this, is really being able to know his voice.
Well, I think, and what you just said was important, because that was about business. But I think sometimes if we only expect God to speak to us about spiritual things, we'll miss when he speaks to us about common sense, everyday, practical. There was a speaker that I heard a few years ago from Bethel Church, and he said, all the people in Bethel, he said they're having visions of angels, and they're seeing these portals open up and all this. He said, in my prayer time, I had like 3 business ideas that I could do. And what he realized was, this is what God is, that's part of my mandate is business and entrepreneurship. So if we listen, I want revelation in spiritual walk, of course, but I need revelation on how to raise my children.
Yes.
I need revelation on which business venture or what job to take or what to walk away from. And when we limit God by saying, well, this is how he speaks, we miss that. So I think we got to be really, really careful of, Lord, I want revelation in all areas, my identity, my purpose, my relationships, my money, my health. Give me revelation, and be intentional. And I think, like beating a dead horse, we say intentional so much, but be intentional about taking 5 minutes and saying, Lord, what do you want to know? What do I need to know about this? What do I need to reveal to me?
Yeah. And it's one of those things where we've talked about too recently is all of us have unique gifts, right? That's what God made us. We are one of a kind, not all the same. So my skills to your skills, to my brother's skills who's sitting downstairs, to, the women of the church and all across the country, it's completely different. And so your voice, what you hear about something is probably different than what you and I hear, because your skill is meant to be a certain place. And I think that that's something too, is we ought, to your point, well, I only spend time thinking about spiritual things, or I'm only talking to him when I'm in this space. Well, it's like, well, if you open up that conversation, he's going to start talking to you and all of that, because he never leaves your side. As soon as you open up that door and he's with you all the time. So that's what ends with me. I do want to spend some time here on, the rock of revelation, because, I love history. Jerry broke down the word church, and, he talks about it all the time. It's mentioned once throughout the Bible, and it's right here in Matthew. And Matthew 16:18. And on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades shall not prevail against it. So that word church, Ecclesia, is the actual word, the Greek word for that. What does that actually mean? So we did a little bit of a deep dive. Jerry did a deep dive. I went a little bit further on my end. So I'm just going to read some notes here from y'all, because I think this is really, really important. At least for me, I think it is. The word church is very construed in society today. So the Greek word that Jesus used, Ecclesia, is actually meant called out ones, the called out ones. In the first century context, going back to Rome and these times, it wasn't a religious word. It was referred to as a governing assembly, which Pastor Jerry got into, of citizens who were called out from the general population to make decisions, set laws, and carry out the will of the kingdom of the city that they represented. So when Jesus says this, right, on this rock I will build my church, the Ecclesia, and the gates of Hades will not prevail against it, he's saying that the church is not a gathering for worship, but a kingdom governing body with authority to carry out heaven's agenda on earth. So this isn't just like, it's a weekly event or a building. Like that is not what church is. So we've got to separate that. It was like, what church do you belong to? Well, down the road, you know where that's at? It's right there. No, get that out of here. Yes, you are part of a community, but church isn't just a building or a weekly event. It's a community of spirit empowered people. So I just wanted to really, lean into that, because I think oftentimes we talk about church and our brain is stuck right on that. It's actually meant for us to go out and release heaven's will in our homes, in our workplaces, in the schools, in communities. Absolutely. It's not constrained to a building.
Absolutely. And when you get that mindset, I think what it does for me, and I'll just talk about Wayne, I don't have to see the other churches as, I use the word competition.
Oh yeah, it's your spot.
I can see, okay, if I ride by a church, or maybe a church I've never been in a Catholic service, but I have friends and then I have friends that are Lutheran. I have friends, I grew up Pentecostal. Candace was Baptist. So you really do. It's just human nature. Like like your own mind.
Yeah.
But when you realize we are all the body, that's the ecclesia, and then the Lord leads us into, I believe, He leads us to different churches for different seasons and or for what we need. But really, everyone that is a born again believer, they're part of that body, and the ones that are not born again, that's our mission field. So it makes it very simple. Yeah,
it really does. And I love that you brought that up too, because I think, and even when we talk about one of, iron sharpens iron, how many of those men that go to that group, we're not all from the same church.
Yeah.
When people say, well, that's my church. Well, church is just a gathering of spirit empowered people, regardless of whatever physical structure that they go to on a Sunday. So I just, I think that's really important, and I love that. So sorry for the side note, team, but I had to take us down there because I thought that was really, really important. I love when Jerry does those sort of history recap moments. But kind of coming back to, the rock of revelation, I just think one of the things that I want to end that sort of piece with is, are you building your faith on revelation, or is it just repetition? Is it just a Sunday thing? Are you listening to the voice?
Yeah.
to pivot sort of into the keys of the kingdom, going back to our props for today. When I think about keys, you think about access, right? But there's what he talks about is the keys to heaven, and then keys to kingdom, or the keys to the kingdom of heaven. Excuse me, I couldn't get it out there. But he talks about binding and loosening. So that keys element is really important, because there's the keys to be able to bind, which is restricting enemy influence or restricting some form of influence, or loosening, which could be releasing God's spirit. So these keys, the keys that we have, which is in this book, give us the ability to restrict enemy influence, restrict the assignment against the assignment, right? Jerry always says there's something coming. So you have the keys to be able to mitigate that, to restrict it, and then to release love and spirit. That is something that we just lose. I think we lose sight of, what are the keys for, right? Like that's almost like, well, that's the first question. You need to understand what's the purpose of the keys? Why are we using this?
Yeah. And when you have a key, I love how he used that example with Nancy's keys. Like,
yeah.
Key, I can go into her home. I can start her car. I can do these. And we all understand, everyone understands what a key is. I think it's just the beauty and the simplicity of the gospel. But do you understand what that key gives you real access to?
Yes.
And I found keys here at the house the other day, and I'm like, what do these go to? The old house, maybe the old garage. What do these go to? And I mean, they're useless, but I still won't throw them away because I might need one of those keys, But that's really it, the keys to the kingdom. And I think what Jerry said about praying defensive versus offense.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we even talked about that on the last episode. Am I really going to be offensive and taking action, or am I just going to be reactive and defensive? And and that's it. You have to. It's really funny. I'll side note here for 2 seconds. When I was first learning to sell real estate, one of my coaches said, when you walk in, take your keys and put it in your front pocket. Okay. Sounds weird. Why? He said, because anytime you start losing control of the conversation, you can just stick in there and put your hand on the keys. You hold the keys to this. And it was just like a mental reminder.
That's so good, though.
Yeah. And so it's the same. Like when all hell breaks loose in your life, you're like, oh, Lord, where are you at? What's happening here? Wait a minute. The key. I had the key. And the key is the word. And the key is releasing that word. And I'm a born again. I'm the same spirit of Christ, that raised Christ from dead lives within me. And I have authority. So maybe we need to walk around with a key just as to keep our mind. I have the key.
Yes.
Christ took the key and he gave it to us. He gave us that authority. So I expect to see some keys. Sunday or tomorrow night when you come in church, just hold up your keys and wave at me and Eli. We'll know what you're talking about.
Yes. No, I love it. Because it directly ties to what you're saying of, the reactive or the proactive, or whatever you want to call it, defense. How do you pray? How do you handle when you have the keys? Are you just locking up the gate to keep things out? Or do you actually putting in practice the keys to create good habits that you're doing on a daily basis? Like that's the offensive versus the defense. And Jerry gave a good example of using sports. And I think it's a perfect way to think about it. We need to be on the offense. I think a lot of times we're always on the defense, frankly, because there's chaos in the world. That's sort of what the enemy wants. They want us to be on the defense. They want us to be distracted and chaotic, so we can't be proactive in our faith. So we can't be on the offense. And I truly believe in, because it's been a part of my journey, is instead of asking, declaring when you pray. Not asking, God, whatever your will be, or God, will you, bring this? Will you help me? Will you, will? It's no, I declare that this is going to happen, that this is, and that's within your purview. It's within your authority to do that. And I think that, oftentimes we ask too much instead of declaring when it comes to faith.
Yeah, and you were definitely touching on my sermon for Wednesday evenings, because we're going to teach on that. When do you petition? When do you decree? When do you declare? When do you fight in spiritual warfare? But we have the key. Like you said, I decree health, or I decree this situation is going to be, even taking, a Bible verse. Jerry talks about get back to word. Now, according to Romans 8:28, all things work together for good. So I decree good is coming from this.
Yes.
And I'll, whatever it may be, even if I don't understand it at the time.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, we are, believe it or not, already 20 minutes into this discussion. I've got a couple other things that I would love to get to, but I want to be mindful of, everybody's time. I just want to just share a couple things at the end. I think
we do. I say we do an extended version.
You want to do 20 minutes?
Not cut it off, guys. But if you are ready to, we're gonna be one of the preacher that preaches a little extra today. Let's extend it if people are good.
Because I mean, the one thing that I don't want to miss is we've talked a lot about, flesh versus spirit, right? That's something that is very important, because what's funny is, where there's this little story that we touched on, right? And Jesus says to Peter, "Blessed you are, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father who is in heaven," right? And then we jump down to verse 21, and Jesus goes on to talk about his death and the resurrection and what's going to happen to him. And Peter immediately jumps back in. He's like, whoa. Nuh-uh, that's not happening, man. That's not on my, not on my clock. That's not happening. And that little moment is like, well, that's not God's will. You're getting that. Like, you want to protect him, which is a good desire, but it's not God's will. And I think that's important too, is that, you can have good desires, but is it actually, what is the intention of it? What is behind it? Is it God's will? And that little story of like, having revelation and all of a sudden snap a finger, you're back in flesh. Like, that's how quickly it happens. And Jerry said, how many of us on Sunday, we're spirit led. We walk out the door, we pull up to the stop sign, somebody blows right by us, and we're back right in the flesh.
Absolutely.
That happens so quickly. So like, I really think it's important that we recognize good intentions can still be flesh driven. And you have to be able to, again, goes back to discern God's voice from whatever you want out of it.
Yes.
That is something that is, to me, I think is been very, it's, again, go back to my spiritual journey, because that's what I can relate this to. It's how much was I looking into the external world versus, well, where am I actually supposed to be? Where am I actually supposed to be spending my time? And investing in that to get a direction, and spending time with the Lord, and spending time in prayer, and declaring that my life will have a purpose. Yes. I want to know what that purpose is, and that purpose is going to come from him. So I think that this is one of the biggest things, is flesh versus spirit, man. And this little story in Matthew is just, I love this. And I think it's funny, because we always, what does Pastor Jerry always say? Peter has a foot and mouth disease, right? He's foot in his mouth. Yeah. But it's a beautiful representation of how quickly in today's world we can go back and forth. It's a beautiful representation of how you may think on the outside or in the flesh that it's a good thing, but are you really spending time on discerning whether or not you should be doing this, or how you should be doing it? Because that ultimately will make the difference. And it's not always about me. It's actually never about me. It's about him. And then wherever he wants you to be is where me should be. So like, that
says a lot. That says a lot right there.
Yep. It really does. Well, that's one of the things that I really want to touch on. Not so we didn't extend too much longer, but I definitely want to plug that piece, because I think we lose it. And the last little thing here is, Jerry talked about, do we want to pray like slaves, or do we want to pray like sons and daughters of God?
Yeah.
We need to be able to change that. That is so strong, because it's not like I'm not asking for permission. I'm declaring, in my authority, spirit led, knowing where I'm at, this is going to happen.
Yeah, and sons and daughters have rights. My daughter never has to come in and ask, can we They may say, "Hey, can I have this piece of cake?" It's different, but they don't ask before they open the refrigerator.
No.
It's like, here's the resources from Dad, and I'm going to use the resources. And never have to worry about, will Dad allow me to use electricity? Well, can I get can I get food? I'm hungry. No. And when we think about that as a son, we're king's kids.
Yes, we are.
And, how many, you've got the key to the pantry. Take and eat. So love that. That's a great statement.
Well, here's what I want us to remember. It really is that, Jesus has already given us the keys of the kingdom, right? We have the authority. We don't have to live in fear. We don't have to beg God what he's already promised us. You can walk in revelation, declare his word, and live with kingdom authority. So as you go about the week, I just encourage you to ask yourself, what key do I need to start using today? What territory do I need to take back? Ultimately, that's really where it starts. So appreciate y'all tuning in for another episode of the Overflow Podcast. If today encouraged you, I ask you to go ahead and share it with a friend who you think needs to hear it. And just remember, keep leaning into the Spirit, keep standing on revelation, and keep living in the overflow of God's presence. We appreciate you. We love you. And we are here for you. And don't forget, tomorrow, 7 o'clock, we're starting a new series led by your man here, Mr. Wayne Sutton. Don't miss it. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're excited to see you. Have a great rest of your Tuesday. Stay blessed. We'll catch you on the next one. Take care, all.